Hello everyone, welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. Guys, I'm very excited to do this video with you today. We're going to be talking about the idea of this potential global boxing league that people have been sort of throwing around the idea of for a little while now, especially since the Saudis came into boxing. Now, historically, I'm not someone who's been a fan of Formula One racing, but since I got a girlfriend, she's a massive fan and she's got me into it. And so when I saw this news today, that Golden Boy and Top Rank have now also partnered with the Saudis. They've signed this partnership agreement. It's something that's going to happen moving forward. They're going to be doing their shows with the Saudis. You know, we've now got some of the major promotional outfits all aligned with the Saudis. This is very, very exciting, guys. And it's making this sort of dream reality of like a global boxing league look like an actual potential possibility for something that could happen. So today in this video, I want to have a look at how a potential boxing league might actually work. Who would be involved in it? What would the structure look like? How would the rules work? And I just want to, just get a bit excited about it because I think as a boxing fan, there's been times over the last few years when, it's been desperate. We've not got the fights we wanted for so long. God, I'll never forget, waiting for that Mayweather-Pacquiao fight to happen. I can remember back in 2014 trawling forums to see if there was any news, any indication or inkling that the fight might be getting made. And then, we finally got it. It wasn't all that in terms of the excitement on display. In terms of the fight, it wasn't a hugely exciting fight, but, obviously a mega fight and amazing that we got it. But if something like this can happen, then it means that we might not have to go through that again as boxing fans. I've actually been sick for the last few days. My voice isn't perfect. I'm a bit fatigued and a bit tired, but hopefully the carrot of a global boxing league being dangled in front of me as a fan, hopefully that will pull me through this video with a bit of energy. So let's get into it. So we all know as boxing fans how it currently works. It's fractured, it's chaotic, it's an absolute mess. Everybody's backstabbing each other, everybody's trying to get each other's best assets, and frankly it's something that we could all do without. How often have you sat with your mates and thought, God, I wish boxing worked like football, I wish boxing worked like tennis, where there's no avoiding the top opposition, there's no avoiding the top competitors. As fans, we don't all have to learn about the business side of the sport to understand why certain things aren't happening. On this channel, guys, I want to talk about boxing technique. I want to talk about matchups. I want to get excited about the sport itself. I don't want to have to know about some broadcast deal that this promoter's done that means this guy won't work with him. I don't want to know about the contractual history of this guy that means he won't work with him. It's frankly boring and it's tedious and it's just not something I really want to know about. I don't like the gossip. I don't like the drama. I just want to be able to enjoy the sport. But as I say, the way it's been over the years, different promoters align with different broadcasters, different fighters signed to those different promoters means that there's certain fights, because of promotional agreements, it just meant that the fights were never ever going to get made. Even in the UK, we'd have, domestic level scraps that just wouldn't happen because Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn simply wouldn't do business together. Now we've seen a big change in the times with the 5v5. That was an absolutely seminal event and hopefully a real significant moment in the history of at least the UK boxing scene where, these two major promoters have come together and they've made fights against each other. And it was a great spectacle. The whole 5v5 concept where a knockout was worth a certain amount of points, a win was worth a certain amount of points. And, coming out at the end of the night, it was quite hilarious seeing Matchroom get completely wiped out on the night and not score any points. Maybe they got one. I don't think they got any points that night. I can't quite remember, but it was a really good added element to it. And so I want to have a look at this. I want to see how this could work as a model. Now, I want to look at Formula One. And, Formula One is something I've got into quite recently. I'm a new fan to Formula One, so I'm definitely not going to get all the key pieces of information there. I definitely want people in the comments who know a bit more than I do about Formula One to jump in there, tell me what I've missed, tell me what is in it that will and won't work. But my girlfriend got me into it recently and I'm enjoying it a lot. I never used to get it, but now I actually understand, there's the Constructors' Championship and there's the Drivers' Championship and there's all these different rules and regulations. And I was thinking about it and I was like, what if we applied the Formula One model to boxing as I understand it? So let's go through it and see how something like that might work. So the first thing to think about is the Constructors' Championship. And I think that this idea of, the sort of the team element is really, really powerful and could be a really cool thing moving forward. It's almost like having individual franchises. So, for example, Golden Boy, Top Rank, Matchroom, they all become individual teams in their own right, and they have their roster of fighters, and you have, separate prizes on offer. So you have your fighters who are competing for their world titles, for their, their championship title, to be the champion of this division. I don't know what happens to the world titles. Honestly, I wouldn't really care if they were chucked in the bin. I love the prestige of some of those old belts, but the way that they're run these days, it's frankly a disgrace. The WBC are lucky their belt looks cool, because the way that they run their organization is just frankly devastating as a boxing fan. The amount of times they bring in these strange emeritus champions and all this rubbish super champions that mean that they don't have to fight any mandatories, muddying the waters, making fights, chucking random people into the rankings, which a lot of them do, introducing the bridgerweight division, which nobody asked for. There's an endless list of malpractice in these institutions, and it's frankly disappointing. And so I'd be very happy to see the back of some of them, and to have a boxing league in its place. Imagine a world in which we have this boxing league and Team Matchroom is trying to win the championship. They want to win the overall championship for the year, and then they've got their fighters who are also competing for individual honors. I think a really cool concept here would be to have a designated number of slots for each weight division, and you have to fill your roster at the start of the year. I think that'd be such a cool idea, almost like a transfer window, like in the Premier League, or indeed in Formula One, where drivers sign contracts, and then they're with that team for the duration of their contract. I think something like that in boxing would be really, really cool. And it creates windows where, maybe in a calendar year, a fighter can't fight for another team or another championship team. I think that could be a really interesting dynamic where, a fighter's with one team one year, and then someone can come in and make a bid for them. They can buy them out their contract, or their contract comes to an end, they can move to another organization. I really like the idea of having budgets as well, and set windows where more or less budget can be spent. I think that you don't really want to cap the earning potential of any of these fighters, but I also think that having some kind of transfer kitty, something that would regulate it a little bit, would be really intriguing. It would be an added element to how each team's going to spend their money. Are you going to invest big and stock up your heavyweight stable? Are you going to go and get a world-class middleweight, or are you going to focus a bit more on the domestic level and bringing those guys through? I think the way that it could work, it's so exciting and it's so interesting, and because, it's funded by an independent body such as the Saudis, there's no longer a pressure to pick fighters based on commercial value for the individual teams. It's all about how do we win. All we want to do is win. I still think adding in elements like knockout bonus points and things like that would be really cool. I think that's a very interesting concept and something that would, increase the entertainment value of the division. But I think this is something that would work really, really well. Obviously, there's restrictions on how many times a fighter can fight in a year. That comes down to injuries, fitness, cuts, whether you were knocked out or not. There's so many factors. I'm very well aware that boxing is not like other sports. People are taking physical punishment, and you can't just be going up for, 4 or 5 fight cards. I know the old school fighters did, but maybe it wasn't very good for them. But the point is, a fighter can only fight so many times a year. So I look at this and I go, I think the best way of doing this would be to create some kind of global circuit, like they do in the Formula One. Can we have a show? There's an annual show in Monaco, an annual show in London, an annual show in Los Angeles and New York. I think that would be so cool, to make boxing this global thing where they travel around the world for global events. And I really love the idea of each team being able to construct their fighters for each card. And so say, okay, this event in London, what's our team going to be for this event? And you've got to have a fighter in each division. Perhaps it could even work across 2 nights where you have the lower weights one night, the heavier weights another night. But I think it'd be really cool to say, look, we've got 10 to 15 fight cards a year in our global boxing league. And then of course you have the domestic fights and stuff happening around that still, guys essentially auditioning for this global money league of boxing. And you have your 15 shows, and then each promoter constructs a card that they enter into each show, and then there's a points-based system. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And then you can also incentivize the promoters to put their best teams together with cash prizes, and it becomes more of a sport. And this is all any of us have ever really wanted. We want boxing to be more of a sport. I'm not interested in the business of boxing, all this rubbish. And I remember when I first got interested in the sport, I had to spend ages just trying to understand the business side of things, to understand why my favorite fighters weren't fighting. I'm not one to comment on the morals and the ethics of the Saudis. That's not what this video is about. But what I do want to say is that I really believe that if someone can come in and spend the right money and create this global boxing league, it'll be absolutely incredible for the future of the sport. For sure, there will be issues with this. I know that it will be difficult. They've still got to get people to the table. Fighters might want to go off and be independent. They might not want to be a part of this. They might want to run their own careers as they've done in the past, when they've got big enough. So the financial incentives have got to be massive for the promoters and for the fighters. And I really think that this could just be such a cool idea. You know, can you imagine, where's the Global Boxing League fighting this week? Let's get tickets, let's fly off, let's follow the tour for a year, whatever it is. It could be so sick. You know, I can't afford to do that, but maybe you can. Maybe one day I'll be able to afford that if this channel goes well enough. But I just think this is such a cool idea. So what do you guys think? Do you think that the Formula One model, parts of it, could be applied to boxing? What other sports do you think you can look at and apply to the sport of boxing that could be a good example for the sport if everybody signs up and gets on board for this? It could be absolutely massive, and I don't see any reason why not. You know, at the end of the day, what these promoters want is they want money. It's all about money. And so if the financials are right, I don't see any reason why this won't happen. There is an argument to be made that this sort of monopolization of boxing is not a great idea. You know, we've seen it with the UFC, where there's a lot of complaints about this one entity, this one division policy that means fighters don't get paid what they should be. And the big money is still in the top of boxing. Of course, many fighters barely make a wage in boxing, but we're talking about at the very top here, the very elite level. It's still far better in boxing financially at the top, sort of 0.1% or whatever it is. So there is an argument that this might actually make things worse in some aspects, but I really believe that the way that the Saudis are investing in the sport, that there'll be a lot of money on the table. And, you know, if they don't do it that way, there's nothing to stop other organizations from setting up and fighters going and fighting for them. You know, just like you've seen with one championship, I think it is in the UFC. Not in the UFC, sorry, in mixed martial arts, you have one championship. I know that, I think Ngannou is with them. Forgive me if I've got the name of that wrong, but I believe that's what they're called. You know, I do believe the amount of money on the table for this, it could be absolutely massive. And then maybe you even start to see country divisions developing, you know, like just like you have in football, the lower leagues that kind of people can be promoted from to go and fight in this global league. It's a very, very interesting model, and I'm very excited about it. You know, I think it could really, really work. So guys, it's not the longest video today, but tell me, what do you think about this idea for a league, for a global boxing league? Is it something that excites you? What do you see the potential problems being? Do you think that the Formula One model could work? And just get in the comments below and let's have a conversation about it, guys. As I said before, this channel is in a kind of experimental rebuild sort of phase. I'm seeing what you want to talk about. I'm seeing what style of videos you want. Amazing reaction to the Crawford technical breakdown video that I did, the game film analysis, that was amazing. And I'm just trying this video today to see how you guys like it. If this is something you want to talk about, do we want to do this sort of thing as well? I don't know, we'll see. But guys, I've got so much planned for you. I'm going to be really consistent, as I've said, with the videos. I'm planning on starting up a Patreon. I'm going to get some community groups going on WhatsApp and other platforms. So I'll definitely start dropping links for all those things when they're ready. And I'm just really excited to build this boxing community, build a place where we can all talk and get excited about stuff and learn more about the sport. You know, as I've said, guys, I've been out the game for a little while here. I'm still learning about a lot of new fighters that I don't know, I've never seen before. I don't know their names. I know the sport, you know, I've learned the sport. I understand it technically. I really enjoy boxing, but I'm on a journey. I'm rediscovering the sport right now and I'm loving it. And I want to do it with you guys. So I want to go on that journey with you. I want to learn more about the sport. I want to have great conversations. And guys, I just want to say, I want to hear different opinions. I don't care if you disagree with me. I encourage you to disagree with me. I want to further my knowledge. I want to see what points I've missed. I'm not trying to claim to be this, you know, know-it-all on boxing or on the sport. You know, this is all about us building a community together where we can share ideas, where we can learn about the sport, we can get excited about the sport. That's what this is all about. I want this to be a really positive community. So yeah, get in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video to the end. And as I always say, on to the next one. Cheers, guys.